party B is a party to a farm out agreement and is earning rights and earning property and property interests. And if they don't know that, then the odds are pretty good they didn't perfect the security interest in it.
Well, so this means that lenders in the oil and gas industry have got to be particularly vigilant, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the, and now let's make it understand some of the nature of this. A company may have hundreds, if not thousands of leases. It's not at all unusual to have, like I said, well files and lease files that are very complicated. And then to make it even more fun, most E&P, most drillers, they keep their records by well, because that's where they're spending their money, that's where they're earning their rights, that's where the production comes from, but you perfect by lease. And you may not, and a lender, not only do they have to know where the money is being spent, what wells it's being spent on, you also have to know what lease it's in so you can go perfect your security interest in the lease. It's very difficult, or can be difficult for lenders in a distressed, dynamic economy to stay on top of what their borrowers, their E&P customers are doing.
No dear. Well, assume that a lender comes in and retains you because they have a borrower who is in distress, not in bankruptcy yet, in distress. So there is some time to make amends for prior sins. What would you have the lenders do in terms of their collateral?
And oftentimes is of the essence when you're dealing with this, because you have competing liens that could come in from from the trade creditors who are providing services. So when time is of the essence, what we do is we ask them to categorize into two groups. We're going to triage your perfection or your security interest. Group one is where the debtors are telling you they're going to spend their money, where they're going to spend their money in the future. You certainly want to make sure you've got a perfected security interest in any leases where CapEx is going to be spent, where cash will be spent. The second category is, where's your money coming from? Where's the production? And we ask them to rank highest production to lowest production. Let's make sure you've got a perfected security interest where the money's coming from. So where the money's going to be spent, rank those, and where the money's going to come from, rank those, and then do your due diligence and make sure you're perfected running it down that way.
You know, this is very interesting, Deborah, because I've heard over the years from people who purchase bonds in the secondary market that there is always going to be gaps in terms of the rights of the lenders that you really can't determine from public filings, which is very often, if you're coming in the secondary market, the only thing that you've got to determine how good the collateral is, for instance. But it seems to me that it is particularly perilous if you have an oil and gas loan and you're coming in to buy a piece of that loan, especially if it's out of a public market. Maybe if you're in a private sale, you might be able to find what the seller knows, but even then, I guess, it's a problem, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, in theory, the only way to actually know whether or not there is a lien on a particular lease, first of all, you have to find out what leases they have, what leases the debtor or the borrower owns. There's no record, at least in Texas. We don't keep our real estate records, so you can easily go and say, oh, Bob owns all of these. So first you got to where liens timely and correctly filed, where the description's accurate, and when were they filed, and are there intervening trade debt liens that came in. It's very difficult, and that's part of the job. Part of the job of the lender is to really stay on top of this and have and do what they can to have a full database of information. And if you're going to buy into a loan position, particularly if you're doing it on the private market, less so in the public market. If you're doing it in the private market, you want to know what due diligence has been done by the lender on an almost weekly, if not monthly basis.
And I suppose also this means there is particular importance for DIP lending, so that some lender, can sop up collateral that has not been properly perfected.
And that is exactly right. If it is one way to come in to be a DIP lender, and you take a security interest in everything. One of the problems with that, though, of course, is if there was intervening trade liens, then it's more difficult for the DIP to trump those. But at least it gives you an interest in the property you might have missed in the pre-bankruptcy
And
days.
I gather lawyers like you representing creditor committees are starting to learn that improper perfection is a big deal and you ought to try to prevent those issues from disappearing up front in the case?
Absolutely. It is one of the issues that I think you will see in every case where they're going to come in and have an adverse impact on the trade. That's the job of the trade. And for those who are new to oil and gas lending, let me assure you that the trade creditors, they've been doing this for a very, very, very long time. They know how to perfect their liens. And as I said to somebody, they only have to find a breach in one wall one time. You as a lender have to be defending all the walls, every security interest you take. They just need to find one.
Well, my instinct tells me that oil and gas bankruptcies are not going to go away. So, Deborah, I think about a year from now, we'll come back for part 2 and see how the parties, the courts, are progressing with the spate of energy bankruptcies we have today.
I look forward to talking with you next year on what we've learned over the last year.
Well,
Thank
let's
you, Bill.
stand adjourned for a year.
Thank you.
Good.
It worked.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Might be a spot of tape.
Did I talk too fast? I tend to talk
No,
too
it
fast.
was well and even paced.
Thank you.